Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss the metabolic pathway, that is a pentose phosphate pathway. Now, what is the pentose phosphate pathway? It is an alternate pathway for the oxidation of glucose. Till now, you have known or you are well acquainted with what is glycolysis, isn't it? That is the oxidation of glucose, breakdown of glucose, okay, to give you what? Pyruvate, okay. Then further this pyruvate is broken down by the TCA cycle, ultimately giving you energy. So ATP generation occurs. Now, pentose phosphate pathway is an alternative path, we are saying, to glycolysis. So you can say glucose is broken down even here, but by oxidation, okay, and giving you mainly two products. There are two phases in this pathway. The first phase is the oxidative phase, which gives rise to the generation of a compound, that is NADPH, a very important compound, and the second is the ribose 5-phosphate, so which is helping you in the formation of nucleic acid, nucleotides, DNA, RNA, etc. So overall we come to know that pentose phosphate pathway is not leading to the formation of ATP, okay, or energy, but it is forming very important two products, okay. Now, again, whatever I had said just now, the summary of this is the product of glycolysis enter the Krebs cycle, that is the TCA cycle, and then to the electron transport chain to produce energy. Okay. So here you can say the straightaway pathway is the pathway which is usually followed, but an alternative pathway which goes henceforth from glucose 6-phosphate is a pentose phosphate pathway to produce what? Sugars, mainly the pentose sugars, ribose, that makes up for DNA, RNA, nucleotides. So this pathway is a pentose phosphate pathway or phosphogluconate pathway or hexose monophosphate shunt. Why it is special? Not for the formation of energy or ATP, but for the formation of two very important products. One is your NADPH and the other one is 5-carbon sugars. The NADPH is very important, that means it is required for the synthesis of fatty acids or steroids, or for the maintaining the reduced form of glutathione, which has a very important role to play in antioxidant activity. And your ribose 5-phosphate, that is a 5-carbon sugar, which is a precursor for the synthesis of nucleic acid, nucleotides, and for the DNA, RNA. So you can say that this pathway, its primary role is anabolic rather than catabolic. So production of two important products, and it is very especially important in red blood cells. Because in red blood cells you do not get the nucleus, so the energy generation is very difficult over here. Okay, so the breakdown of the glucose mainly follows this pathway. There are two phases, as I said. One is your oxidative phase, the other one is your non-oxidative phase. So this mainly occurs where? The site of this pathway. The glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm. Even the pentose phosphate pathway also takes place in the cytosol of the cell. Now for most organisms, this occurs in the cytosol, but in plants, some steps may also take place in plastids. Here the oxidation is achieved by dehydrogenation. Okay. Now what is oxidation? You know, addition of oxygen or removal of hydrogen. Here the removal of hydrogen occurs. Okay. And who is going to receive this hydrogen? From the substrate the hydrogen is removed, and who is going to receive? You need a very important compound, that is NADP. Instead of NAD, which you used in, so which occurs mainly, which is needed in glycolysis, okay, but here you require NADP, which is a carrier or an acceptor of hydrogen. and thereby leading to the formation of NADPH. Two distinct phases. First I said oxidative, which is also an irreversible phase. Okay. So here the NADPH is generated. We start with 3 molecules of glucose 6-phosphate. This gives rise to what? 3 molecules of carbon dioxide and 3 5-carbon sugars. So that's it, the end of oxidative phase, okay, or irreversible phase. The second phase is non-oxidative phase or reversible phase, where the synthesis of 5-carbon sugars take place. So these are the steps or the chemical reactions which are actually occurring in the pathway. We start with 3 molecules of glucose 6-phosphate. So glucose 6-phosphate, from where are you getting? From glucose by phosphorylation in presence of glucokinase or hexokinase. Now with these 3 molecules, first and most important enzyme is your glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. So from the term itself you can make out that the dehydrogenation reaction is occurring, that is oxidation. Now this removal of hydrogen occurs and this hydrogen is accepted by NADP and formation of NADPH. You can see 3 molecules of NADPH is occurring. Now what will happen? This is the first step. Second step is that in between there is another step, that is first you are getting, in presence of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, you are getting 6-phosphogluconolactone. Now the 6-phosphogluconolactone, this undergoes a hydrolysis in presence of or addition of water in presence of an enzyme, that is phosphogluconolactone hydrolase, to give you 6-phosphogluconate. Okay. Now the 6-phosphogluconate again undergoes the second oxidation in presence of this enzyme 6-phosphogluconate dehydrogenase to give you ribulose 5-phosphate, 3 molecules. And the same way NADPH is produced, and this step you are also having the liberation of carbon dioxide. So 3 molecules of carbon dioxide are also generated. So that ends our oxidative phase or irreversible phase. Next, the further reaction, that is ribulose 5-phosphate in presence of 3 epimerase, you are getting formation of xylulose 5-phosphate. This second phase which you are having, it starts from here. So this is just a rearrangement of the sugars which occurs, okay, the compounds which occurs, rearrangement. So it is a non-oxidative phase or reversible phase. So in presence of epimerase enzyme, we are getting formation of xylulose 5-phosphate. That means it's the same thing, okay, 5-carbon sugar only. Then from ribulose 5-phosphate in presence of ketoisomerase enzyme, we are getting ribose 5-phosphate. Now this ribose 5-phosphate, some part of it is consumed in the further reaction and some part of it can be utilized for the synthesis of nucleic acid. This is the second part, the non-oxidative phase. See, again we have started with xylulose 5-phosphate. Now this may be used, as I said, for the synthesis of nucleotides, RNA, DNA, but half of the part may be utilized in the pentose phosphate pathway. Now the xylulose 5-phosphate, in addition to ribose 5-phosphate, in presence of an enzyme transketolase. Now this enzyme mainly utilizes some coenzymes or cofactors, that is magnesium. Another one is the vitamin B1, thiamine diphosphate. So these are the compounds which it will require to act or function. These are the coenzymes. So in presence of this enzyme, we are getting again by rearrangement 2 other compounds. One is your glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and pseudoheptulose 7-phosphate. Now these 2 compounds again in presence of another enzyme transaldolase is giving us fructose 6-phosphate and erythrose 4-phosphate. This is a 4-carbon compound, this is a 6-carbon compound. Fructose 6-phosphate will give us glucose 6-phosphate ultimately in the presence of an enzyme phosphohexose isomerase. Now this erythrose 4-phosphate is going to join up and rearrange with cellulose 5-phosphate in presence of trans-ketolase to give us two compounds, that is fructose 6-phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Fructose 6-phosphate is having the same fate, and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, do you remember from glycolysis, as we see from glycolysis glucose to glucose 6-phosphate, then to fructose 6-phosphate, after this fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Now further step, that is fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, one molecule of fructose 1,6-bisphosphate give rise to two molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate in presence of aldolase. Why? Because it generates two compounds. One is a glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, another one is dihydroxyacetone phosphate. But these two molecules are interconvertible, so we are getting two molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. This step only is reversed here. Have you seen? That is why we are saying this is reversible phase. So this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is just reversed back in presence of aldolase, just because we have started with one glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, so it will give half molecule of fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. It's just the opposite reverse pattern which we have done in glycolysis. In glycolysis, one molecule of fructose 1,6-bisphosphate gives rise to two molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, and when we just come reverse, one molecule of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, thereby it will give rise to half molecule of fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Now this fructose 1,6-bisphosphate in presence of this enzyme fructose 1,6-bisphosphatase is giving us half molecule of fructose 6-phosphate, then finally to half molecule of glucose 6-phosphate. So we end up with 2.5 molecules of glucose 6-phosphate. So this is the oxidative phase. This is reversible. So here NADPH is produced, as I've said. The same thing given separately. So carbon is removed here, so carbon dioxide released, NADP to NADPH. And finally you are getting the production of 5-carbon molecule, that is ribulose 5-phosphate. Overall reaction of oxidative phase, glucose 6-phosphate plus NAD. Products we are getting 6-phosphogluconate, NADP sorry. So NADPH we are getting, enzyme is glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, dehydrogenation reaction is occurring here. Next step, 6-phosphogluconolactone plus water, that is hydrolase enzyme. In presence of hydrolase enzyme, this is phosphogluconate hydrolase actually. So here we are getting 6-phosphogluconate hydrolysis. Finally 6-phosphogluconate undergoing dehydrogenation once again, that means oxidative decarboxylation rather to say, because carbon dioxide is also generated here along with NADPH, and the enzyme is 6-phosphogluconate dehydrogenase, we are getting ribulose 5-phosphate. The non-oxidative phase, as I said, this is reversible. You start with ribulose 5-phosphate. So ribulose 5-phosphate in presence of the enzymes, that is the ketoisomerase or epimerase, is giving rise to xylulose 5-phosphate, ribose 5-phosphate, and again xylulose 5-phosphate. So further reactions, some rearrangements are being made in presence of two enzymes, that is trans-ketolase, trans-amylase, to ultimately end up with fructose and then glucose 6-phosphate. Okay. The other hand, we are getting one molecule of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. This already I have explained you actually before in the reaction step in the pathway, so I am not going to detail. This is in summary what are the reactions occurring in the non-oxidative phase has been shown. This is your reactants, ribulose To ribose 5-phosphate I am getting in presence of this enzyme, okay, ketoisomerase. Again cellulose 5-phosphate if I consider epimerase. Then finally in presence of trans-ketolase, cellulose and ribose 5-phosphate giving us these two compounds. And from here again presence of trans-aldolase we are getting this. Cellulose 5-phosphate plus erythrose 4-phosphate is giving us fructose 6-phosphate and glycerolide 3-phosphate. Okay, the enzyme is trans-ketolase again. So it has a link to glycolysis because see in glycolysis after phosphorylation only this might shift into our oxidative phase or irreversible phase of pentose phosphate pathway. Then again coming to non-oxidative phase, again see it can come back and enter our glycolysis as fructose 6-phosphate or glycerolide 3-phosphate. Okay. The other hand, a ribose 5-phosphate generation is there which might lead to nucleotide biosynthesis. Now this pentose phosphate pathway protects the cells against reactive oxygen species. What does it mean? Now see the molecular oxygen when it gets partially reduced, okay, ultimately end up in water, but the intermediate compounds which are formed, okay, like superoxide radical, hydrogen peroxide, hydroxyl radical. So these compounds are very much toxic, or you can say they are only called the reactive oxygen species. So the intermediate form of activated forms of oxygen. Now what these reactive oxygen species are going to do? They are going to act against this highly reactive oxygen derivatives or species are going to react against the cells, and they are going to destroy the cells. Okay. So there is a role here of NADPH, okay, in protecting the cells against the reactive oxygen species, because they'll cause this reactive oxygen species will cause the red cell membrane destruction, lysis, and then hemolysis. So to prevent this, we require what? A compound that is glutathione, that too in the reduced form. So this is a reduced form. And we need an enzyme that is glutathione peroxidase, because this reduced form is very much required, okay, for this enzyme to act upon. So this enzyme is going to convert this hydrogen peroxide to water. So for that it requires a reduced form of glutathione. Now once it converts to water, then this reduced form itself gets oxidized to this oxidized form. So we continuously need a lot amount of this reduced form. So once it gets oxidized, so we already saturated with it. So where do we get the oxidized form? To generate this reduced form again, so we require NADPH and an enzyme that with this conversion from oxidized to reduced form is possible only in presence of this enzyme glutathione reductase, which is going to work only in presence of NADPH. Okay. So this NADPH we are getting from pentose phosphate pathway. The generation of NADPH, this is helping actually making this enzyme active, glutathione reductase, and we are getting the glutathione in the reduced form. This is activating the glutathione peroxidase, and we are getting, that is a destruction of this hydrogen peroxide or any reactive oxygen species. So role of NADPH and glutathione in protecting cells against highly reactive oxygen derivatives. The reduced glutathione protects the cell by destroying hydrogen peroxide and hydroxyl free radicals. So the regeneration of reduced form from its oxidized form requires the NADPH. This glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency causes hemolytic anemia. I already mentioned about it. Now see, there might be some mutations present in some population causing a deficiency in the enzyme that is glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. Okay, as a result of which definitely there will be impairment of NADPH production. So the detoxification of the H2O2, hydrogen peroxide, or any other reactive oxygen species is inhibited. So there will be cellular damage, lipid peroxidation. This is going to lead to erythrocyte membrane breakdown and hemolysis, hemolytic anemia. So most of these G6PD deficient individuals, okay, this G6PD is glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficient individuals. They are asymptomatic, but they are symptomatic only in combination with certain environmental factors. Suppose they're taking some drugs like sulfa antibiotics or herbicides or antiminerals, then that is very toxic presentation. So then they are manifest. Finally, we come to the regulation of pentose phosphate pathway. So overall you have understood that pentose phosphate pathway is going to generate two important compounds, NADPH, and along with that we are having ribose 5-phosphate, isn't it? Both are very important compounds. And NADPH, why very important? So as to protect the RBCs, okay, so that there is no hemolysis. And that's all. That's the importance. Now regulation of this pathway mainly depends on what? NADPH, because it depends on the concentration of NADPH. Now why? Because NADPH is a strong inhibitor of the enzyme glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. Okay. If more and more NADPH is produced, then at one point of time this enzyme will be inhibited and your pentose phosphate pathway is going to stop. And another thing which is influencing is the insulin glucagon ratio after a high carbohydrate meal. Okay, this is going to increase the synthesis of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, thereby the pentose phosphate pathway is going to increase. The rate is going to increase. Now why this happens so? Actually from the xylulose 5-phosphate which was produced, this xylulose 5-phosphate is going to activate the enzyme protein phosphatase. So the protein phosphatase is an enzyme which is going to affect upon that dual enzyme, biphasic or dual enzyme, that is a phosphofructokinase 2 or fructose 1,6-bisphosphatase. Okay, so in details you will be learning in your gluconeogenesis. Okay, when I don't know your gluconeogenesis class is done or not. There in details it will be spoken about this enzyme. Okay, it's a bifunctional enzyme. Single enzyme having both the phases, both ways it is working. So one form is the PFK2, the other form is the fructose 1,6-bisphosphatase. So what xylulose 5-phosphate does is that it is going to activate the protein phosphatase, and this protein phosphatase is going to enhance the dephosphorylation, particularly of this enzyme, this bifunctional enzyme. So once it is dephosphorylation, that is insulin activated, everything, all functions are going to increase. Okay, so the insulin ratio, if it's more, okay, the insulin function or the dephosphorylation of this enzyme is more. So what will happen? This bifunctional enzyme, the PFK2 form is going to, the activity is going to increase, and you are getting more of fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is going to form from fructose 6-phosphate. That is, glycolysis is more enhanced. Breakdown of glucose is more enhanced. Okay. So any condition which is increasing the insulin ratio or the insulin activity, that is dephosphorylation of your bifunctional enzyme PFK2. So this is ultimately going to increase your glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase synthesis and thereby the pentose phosphate pathway. So the more pentose phosphate pathway occurs, the more xylulose 5-phosphate, and then further synthesis of this beginning enzyme. That is, this is the initial enzyme, isn't it? So this enzyme synthesis is increased. So these two are the main points for regulation. The significance now. See, it mainly has got two important products. One is a pentosis, one is a NADPH. Generation of reducing equivalents in the form of NADPH. This is used in reductive biosynthesis reactions within cells. Then NADPH has got many other uses, like for the synthesis of fatty acids, steroids. Okay. It is also used for the synthesis of some amino acids like glutamate dehydrogenase. Then definitely the free radical scavenging. It's a very important role to play, isn't it? That is a reduced form of glutathione is helping to maintain. It helps to preserve the integrity of the RBC membrane, and it helps in the detoxification of drugs. On the other hand, another product, that is ribose 5-phosphate, it is causing the synthesis of nucleic acid like DNA, RNA. Many nucleotides such as ATP, NAD, FAD, coenzyme A, this has also been synthesized from it. Production of erythrose 4-phosphate, which is used in the synthesis of aromatic amino acids. Aromatic amino acids in turn are precursors of many biosynthetic pathways, including the lignin. So, this completes our chapter, pentose phosphate pathway. You have to go through it thoroughly, and if you are having any doubts, please let us know. Thank you.